Okay, with that, we're all set up, and now we will be commencing our Fireside chat, enabling cybersecurity in the next phase of digital transformation, with our interviewer and interviewee being Mr. Mark du Plessis from Accenture, Managing Director and Security Lead for Southeast Asia, and our interviewee, Mr. Sujith Emmanuel Pelican, Technology Evangelist with Manage Engine. So, all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Hi. My name is Mark du Plessis. I'll introduce myself second, seeing as I'm the interviewer. Sujit, over to you as the interviewee. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, I'm Sujit, and I'm a technology evangelist with Manage Engine, and I'm with Manage Engine for the last 6 years. And as a technology evangelist, I do two things. One, I get the opportunity to travel around the world and speak AD solutions from Manage Engine. And secondly, I do product implementation in customers' environment. And thank you, CXOCIETY, for organizing this great event, and it means a lot for hosting us.
Thanks. Nice to meet you. My name is Mark du Plessis. I think that was put up earlier. I'm from Accenture. I lead the cybersecurity practice. Obviously, this topic we are going to be talking about is cybersecurity. I lead the cybersecurity practice for Southeast Asia. I've been in Accenture about 9 years, and as a practitioner, I love all things governance, which most people hate, and I love OT, and I love IoT. And those type of things really keep me interested and awake. Also, don't forget that ransomware is a big thing, so our topic leads in nicely from cloud, because this is how do we enable cybersecurity in the next phase of digital transformation. So I'll kick this off with an extremely easy question for you, and we're just going to chat. We're just going to, between us, we're just going to bounce these ideas around. Please ask questions. If there's a topic that is of interest to you, we'll do our best to answer it. We'd like it to be driven by how this conversation is going to be going from your side.
I hope there are takeaways.
I hope there are takeaways too, yes. Only two. If you remember one thing or two things, please, I'll be really happy about that. So first question, obvious one. Are organizations at a greater risk due to digital transformation? Easy one.
And the answer to it is an obvious yes. Because before digital transformation, everything was a bookkeeping method, right? Okay. Any technology that you take, we see risk. So if I would give you a simple example, let's take Active Directory. Okay. I know it's been in the market for 25 years, 22 years.
20, as long as I've been doing IT, yes.
Okay. So let's say if my AD account is compromised, okay, and we are already living in a cloud era. If my AD account is compromised, I use the same account to log into my mailbox, which is M365, to my SharePoint, to OneDrive. And if I am someone, if holding a critical information for my org, then as an organization, we have to pay a fortune to retrieve those info. So speaking, any technology that you take, there is always a risk, and how to create this peripheral surface around it, protecting them, is the key element that I would like to deliver.
So at a wider, if we look at this digital transformation at a wider angle, in a bigger context, why is cybersecurity the heart of this? Now we understand the customers are at risk, clients and organizations are at risk as they move down this digital transformation roadmap and post-digital transformation, which always makes me think, what are we going to get to post something? But that's a completely different philosophical discussion. Now that we understand that we are at risk, why is cyber at the heart of it? As cyber practitioners, we think it is, but why is it?
As you already gave me lead to the answer, cybersecurity is the heart of it. So there is no organization which is exempted in terms of a cybersecurity attack. Is there anyone who could tell me my organization is exempted of cybersecurity attack? So we have our very good attackers breathing on our shoulders somehow to get in. Okay, one security incident can bring your brand value down. Agree with me? Yes. Okay, I see a few heads nodding.
There's a few heads who've been through it.
Okay, so I got to see a recent report which was released by CSA Singapore, and they said there's a whooping 54% of ransomware attack over 2020, and that is still on the peak. Okay, so you already know what is a ransomware attack, right? So let that be your OneDrive client, someone like puts in from the OneDrive client to get syncs over to your machine, I can run a ransomware attack, and then from there, I can run a malicious software there. I can take off all your data. So out of all this, like my data has already been compromised, do I have a solution in place where I can retrieve those data? So two ways to answer it. We have a cybersecurity, which is core thing, is a core problem for every organization. And if there is a core problem, do we have a solution in place that can handle this kind of?
So without us coming across as people who are constantly nervous about the world and are just preaching all the time, saying, hey, the world is falling down, we've got to be careful here, there's cybersecurity problems everywhere. Trying to put this into context where we actually have solutions for it. So we start normally with risk, because risk is an issue that, or is the mechanism for dealing with cyber and other ways of doing things, especially when you're connecting the business and cyber together. Now, as we're moving, all of us are going towards this, let's say, hybrid work environment. I think most companies have worked it. Most of my clients have already got there. We've got there. We've always been pretty much hybrid. So how would I then engineer my risk processes or risk priorities to take into account what we've been talking about, which is digitization, hybrid, moving down this path, knowing that ransomware is kind of hitting all of us at this point?
Okay, so when it comes to risk management, this is something that's going to vary from an organization to an organization. So we don't have a specific kind of a risk management that we can agree upon. And to speaking which, so from my experience, so I would ask you all to watch out for these 5 things. Number 1, user. Number 2, device. Number 3, application. Number 4, data. And lastly, network. So out of these 5 things, look for the places where there is a lot of human interactions or where there's more human traffic. So we know humans are the weakest link. So
I've had that same password for 15 years. Don't worry, it's fine. Nobody will guess password 01.
So
change it every time.
the thing that I would like to deliver here when it comes to the 2 places to look out of these 5 are user identity and your device identity. So these are the 2 new parameters that you have to watch out. So when it comes to user identities, so how to manage all these user identities from a single pane of glass, okay? And when it comes to device identities, so let's say if I would give my laptop to Mark and give my username and password and allow him to use it for 30 minutes, so my behavior is going to be totally different from Mark's behavior, right? So now I am looking for a solution that can handle all my user identities from a centralized place, which is IAM. And second thing, I would require an SIM solution along with machine learning to identify my device behavior.
Can you define SIM? Sorry, technology speak.
I already gave an example for the SIM part. So let's say like if I want to break this, when it comes to the user identity part, which is managing them. So apart from managing them, auditing my users, okay, like I want to transact, I want to know all the transactions done in my Active Directory. So if you say just only the users, there are devices, there are applications, there are databases, there are switches, there is routers, there are many devices. I want to like monitor all the logs that is coming from all these devices from a centralized place, refine those logs as per my audit policy, and give it to you form of a report.
Thank you. Thank you for defining that. So those 5 items that you mentioned, right, all of those could be tied together. And to the audience, please be aware there's a buzzword alert coming up, which is zero trust. Now, many of us have heard this around for years. Some people have been involved in writing up some standards and governance around zero trust, what it'll be, what it looks like, what it smells like. With that zero trust buzzword, going back to your 5 items, where is the perimeter now? Because there seems not to be. And if I had to take zero trust, where does this link into enabling zero trust? Because it seems to be where we're heading in this post-digitization world.
You're making my life easier now.
Doing my best.
All right, so when it comes to zero trust, so I would say IAM is the first journey to zero trust. Yeah. Okay, and maybe now the question for the audience. How many of you have implemented zero trust in your environment?
Or are on a roadmap to implement zero trust? Or have read. Alan, you're so disappointed now. I'll put my hand up because I know that we do zero trust.
Thank
and
you,
I
Mark.
do have, you're welcome. I do have clients who are, who have successfully implemented at least a cloud-based zero trust environment. And to your point, no identity, no trust.
Yes. So it's like verify.
Yeah.
And zero trust is not something that you start from the scratch and you build it up. So the founder, John itself, he says, zero trust framework is nothing but bringing all your pieces together. You already have it. It's just you have to bring it together. How many of you have IAM solution here? Okay, I see one hand, 2, 3. Okay. And how many of you have an SIM solution?
I think most companies would have, yeah.
Okay, I think so you are on the good track. So bringing all them together is the zero trust. So just take this one step forward so that making sure that you're falling into a framework, making your users' life seamless.
So there's one takeaway for today. Zero trust when people get down to that path. No identity, no trust. That's essentially what where zero trust starts. You have to be able to identify somebody. So this leads me to the next question, kind of tied to this, and I'll throw in one out of the blue for you. Okay, so be prepared. When we're heading down the zero trust journey, have you seen more on-prem or more cloud-based theory or strategies for zero trust?
It's hybrid.
It's hybrid, okay. Alan, asking you a question. In your research, have you seen more cloud-based zero trust or more on-prem moving to cloud? That ties in nicely with the SAP keynote. Casey's speech. Moving on-prem, moving to the cloud. Yeah, that exactly. Still hybrid. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Thank you for your input. Then the question is, can we do this? Can we move from being on-prem to the cloud without impacting users and the user experience?
Okay, so I believe zero trust is the process, is just to make the user's life seamless. Or if I would, I don't know if I would, this would be the right word to use, take off all the irritation that your user has. Okay, so how do I take off my irritation and how to make my user's life seamless? So when we consider an infrastructure, can consider an organization. So we have an on-prem AD or an Azure Active Directory or any identity provider, and then we have a cloud application, could be your M365. We have SharePoint. We have multiple other third-party applications. Now, if any of these applications, which is using AD as a core authentication platform, so as a user, I key in my username and password, and then I've been given access to 7 or 8 different applications. I do not want my users to go like punch in the username and password on all these 7 applications. Just with one click, I should be able to access all these 7 applications, and that will introduce to the SSO. How many of you have implemented SSO here? Sweet. And how many of you have implemented MFA for your endpoints? Okay, so you know the risk factor, because as we are speaking cybersecurity, we are no more living with one layer of security, right? Because we are already, our journey is towards passwordless. But Microsoft itself says 99% of your cybersecurity attacks can be exempted, okay, if there is an MFA is enabled in your environment. So making your lives easier is enabling SSO and MFA in your environment.
And you can see this now, actually, if you, to that point, if you look at all the major phone providers, new iOS 16, which I got, or Dropbox recently, OneDrive, they all have a protected environment which needs MFA. They're getting stricter and stricter about multi-factor authentication. So it's not just about what you know, but it's like who you are. What do you have? Like, is your biometrics, is your fingerprints, well, it's biometrics, et cetera. And I think that's a reflection as to where we're going. So going back to the original point, which is I love governance. And we are now trying to figure out how we put this risk thing together, and we're being more practical about it. So one of the things we have to do is to craft a cybersecurity framework, because we've got to have a policy to refer to. It can't just be a free-for-all, especially in the hot market that we are today. The cybersecurity people get paid 30% more, they leave, they go join the banks, they go join, I don't know, they're not going to join us, but they'll join one of the other firms because they're paying way more than what Accenture pays. So then they've gone. Then what do you do? Because that policy is now in the air in somebody's head. So when we're crafting this policy, what would you recommend in terms of these standards? And you don't have to mention particular standards, but as a basis for crafting policy and having governance in place, what would must-have be in those standards?
Okay, my picture to you here would be, let's say like we're enabling a cybersecurity, we're enabling a security framework. So when we start with this journey, so let's say like we keep 20 priorities, okay? And out of these 20 priorities, as you keep accumulating the priorities are the things that you would do, every individual involved in your organization, your priorities keeps accumulating. And if you ask me, where are you? I'm still at the same place where I am.
I'm maturity 3, I can't get to 4.
So the takeaway here is, again, coming back to the same point, start with protecting your identity, protecting your device, protecting your application, data, and your network. This will give you a good start in securing your network.
Okay, and then I'm going to ask a cheeky question. We are in an environment in this room where there's a lot of CXs of certain types, CIOs, CFOs. We are security people, so we typically are closer to CISOs in our day-to-day work with CIOs and CFOs, etc. But as people move down this journey, because they've got different responsibilities as well, the CISO and CIO at times may run into a clash or two. Have you seen this? And if so, how did they handle it?
Okay, rephrasing your question again. So if CISO and CIO are clashing, then as an organization, they've already failed. So my experience working with CIO and CISO, so maybe the CISO is taking north and the other one is taking the south. The destination remains the same. So maybe the route taken is different, but the destination, because one critical incident can bring the brand value down. So either CIO or CISO, if there is an incident occurred, so whomever it is, who is giving you the value to the company or who's resolving that critical incident is the key place here.
Yeah, I've seen the same. I had to ask the question. It's normally CIO who's about, let's call it, for lack of a better term, resilience, experience, availability, providing those IT services. And occasionally the CISO will be, actually, I need to patch the entire landscape because there's an emergency coming from whoever, Microsoft, SAP, from whoever that is. And the two of those will be at loggerheads because it's the middle of the most highly profitable selling time for their web app, I don't know, as an example. And as you say, towards the end, where they get together is resilience. There has to be resilience across the organization, and that's where that journey comes together. So yes, I want to...
Disagreements acceptable, not
yes,
clash.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay, so that was my last question. Allow me to wrap up and see if there's any... Please go ahead and... No, your takeaways, your key takeaways. And then we'll go to questions.
So the key takeaways, again, bringing to the same point again, I think so I'm repeating it for one more time. So when it comes to organization, don't get scared of this framework called Zero Trust. It's something that you already own, something that you already have. So adopting to it, bringing all those pieces together is all about starting a journey on your Zero Trust. So if you have an IAM solution or you don't have an IAM solution, but you are living in a cloud era, living in a hybrid environment, look for a place how to bring all these identities together or protecting your device identities together. So if you have not enabled MFA, have not enabled SSO in your environment, I would say this is the right time for you to go and enable it so that you secure your channels. All right?
Thank you, Sujit.
Thank
Very
you,
good.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark and Sujit. Okay, so in the interest of time, we've just extracted one question from Slido, and here it reads, we need to create a culture of cybersecurity confidence. How can cybersecurity awareness be done successfully? Over to you.
Do you want me to give it a prompt? You can jump on top. Sure. Okay, so spend a lot of time doing this with organizations. It's probably the number one topic around people. So go back to your point around users. Cybersecurity's problem, so let me start by that. As a professional, our problem, and we were talking about it earlier, is that we don't demystify security. Security is a mystery to most people, unless, like Alan, you're a genius, and this is what you do for a living. We use terminology and methods and ways of calculating that do the job. It's a mechanism to protect organizations, but we don't do a great job of inviting everybody on that journey. And that's the problem that this industry has, number one. Number two, we don't share. Every hacker we know shares information. They share information on a daily basis because that hole is open. They're going to target that hole. You'll suddenly see 50 different attacking groups, all with funny names, all attacking that hole because they've all shared it on the dark web where nobody can see it. As security professionals and organizations, your first thing you do is not share that information because of public liability, because your share price is likely to get hit, but we can't then react as a group. And that means that we can't translate the threats that we're seeing accurately to board members, to others. So that awareness drops, the awareness level drops. It looks like cyber people are off in the corner doing stuff by themselves. So the key, from my point, demystify security, make it simple, put it in language that everybody understands. Second is share, and then third one is drill. The most successful organizations I've seen as my clients constantly renew their vision and their message in a very nice, friendly, happy way around cybersecurity. And particularly what that means to you, whether you're holding client data or whether you're looking after your own organization. So those are kind of the three takeaways that I've seen, things that work well. Or anything to jump in?
Putting all this together, so when it comes to cybersecurity, make sure your end users are aware of this. What is the importance of cybersecurity? Maybe if you could run a small questionnaire or a survey among your users telling them the importance of cybersecurity, why you have to enable MFA, what would happen to your credentials if it is being misused. So that will give them, maybe if you run that every quarter, it'll lead a lot of sense.
That's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mark and Sujit. That was definitely very good and a lot of takeaways. So thank you. Thank you, both of you.
Come on, friend.